Viktor Sokolov pointed at the diner floor and ordered Malik Carter to kneel. Outnumbered and surrounded by laughing men, Malik obeyed. But while Dima crushed his phone under a boot, Malik counted 6 guns, 2 exits, 3 vehicles, and Oleg's nervous glance toward an unlocked backroom door. No ordinary delivery driver watched fear that way. If you enjoy stories where arrogant criminals discover too late that they chose the wrong victim, leave a like, subscribe to Wrong Victim Stories, and tell us what city or state you are watching from. Now let's go back to the moment they made their first mistake. 7 hours earlier, Malik Carter had been standing in the narrow kitchen of the apartment he shared with his sister, turning a cracked plastic medicine bottle in his hand and checking the label twice, even though he already knew every word on it. Tasha sat at the table in her school hoodie, one sneaker unlaced, tapping a pencil against a chemistry worksheet while pretending not to watch him count pills. Tasha knew his silences, especially the distant one that followed old nightmares. That morning, though, he was worried about rent, her inhaler refill, and a delivery bonus that had disappeared. Malik drove an old gray cargo van with one blue door, a heater that only worked when it felt respected, and a faded magnetic sign for Carter Courier Services. People knew him as the quiet young man who delivered food, medicine, parts, and whatever else kept the bills paid. At 29, he entered every room with a brief pause, noticing reflections and watchers before making himself relax. He had promised that part of his life was over. His fourth stop was Bennett's Roadside Diner, a low brick building outside Atlanta where truckers, deputies, warehouse hands, and night shift nurses had been drinking the same coffee for 23 years. Earl Bennett owned the place and had known Malik and Malik's mother for years. That morning, Malik walked in carrying 2 pharmacy bags for Earl's cook and 1 sealed envelope for the owner. The first thing he noticed was that nobody near the register was talking. The second was the black SUV parked crooked across 2 spaces. The third was the man in the corner booth wearing a charcoal suit that cost more than every chair in the diner. Viktor Sokolov did not need to raise his voice to own a room. He had a broad, pale face, silver at his temples, and the controlled smile of a man who liked witnesses. 2 of his people sat with him. 3 more stood where customers could see them. 1 blocked the path to the kitchen without appearing to. Malik had heard the name. Everyone around the industrial corridor had. Sokolov's crew operated through auto shops, freight brokers, nightclubs, and warehouses that changed ownership whenever county investigators got interested. Viktor's organization was a business built on debt, fear, and the theater of being untouchable. Earl stood behind the counter with a bruise beneath his left eye. He saw Malik and shook his head once. Leave. Malik understood. He set the pharmacy bags on the pickup shelf and turned toward the door. Then Dima Volkov grabbed the wrist of Ruthie, the diner's 72-year-old waitress. Ruthie had reached for the coffee pot. Dima had decided she was moving too slowly. He twisted her arm just enough to make the room hear her gasp. Dima was thick through the shoulders, with a shaved head and a red scar running from his ear toward his jaw. Unlike Viktor, he did not enjoy control. He enjoyed the moment control became pain. Fresh coffee, Dima said. Not this. Ruthie tried to pull away. Earl stepped around the counter. Let her go. Viktor sighed, as though Earl had interrupted music. Malik stopped with one hand on the door. He saw his own reflection in the glass. Lowered head, cheap jacket, delivery badge. He looked like a man who could walk away, and he had worked hard to become him. Then Ruthie made a small sound through clenched teeth. Malik turned back. She heard you, he said. Dima looked at him. What? She heard you. Let her pour it. There was no challenge in Malik's voice. That made Dima angrier. Men like Dima understood fear and defiance. Calm gave them nowhere to stand. Viktor studied Malik with mild interest. Delivery boy, he said. You have somewhere to be. I do. Then go. Malik looked at Ruthie's wrist. Dima tightened his grip. Soon as he lets her go. The diner went still. Everyone understood that the quiet delivery driver had crossed a line on purpose. Earl whispered, "Malik, don't." Victor's smile widened. "You know him?" Earl said nothing. Victor glanced at the sealed envelope on the pickup shelf. "Maybe he brings your money." "He brings medicine," Earl said. "Then he should learn to mind sickness, not business." Dima shoved Ruthie against the counter and let go. She caught herself with both hands. Malik moved one step toward her, then stopped when the man by the kitchen shifted his jacket. The movement revealed a holster. Another man near the window kept both hands visible, but his attention was wrong. He watched Victor instead of the exits. New. Trying to please the boss. The third man, standing near the restroom hall, kept rubbing his thumb over a ring and checking the parking lot. Nervous. There was a white freight van outside with temporary plates that did not match the age of the vehicle. The rear bumper carried a clean rectangle where a company decal had recently been removed. Malik filed away every detail and made himself look uncertain. Victor stood. "Come here." Malik did not move. "I said, come here." "You already have what you came for," Malik said. Earl flinched. Victor tilted his head. "And what is that?" "Everyone is scared." A trucker at the counter lowered his eyes. Victor's face stayed pleasant, but the room grew colder. "Not everyone." "Enough." For one brief second, Oleg Morozov looked up from his phone. Lean and watchful, he was not scrolling. He was waiting for replies under pressure. The phone vibrated again. Oleg read the screen and whispered something in Russian to Victor. Victor answered without looking at him. Malik caught only one English phrase from the low exchange. "North Line Cold Storage." Dima laughed at whatever Victor said next. "North Line," he repeated. "Maybe we put old man in freezer with his bad coffee." The others smiled, but not like it was new. They had used the name before. A joke, a code, or a place. Malik filed it away. Victor walked to the center of the diner. "Earl owes me money. Earl believes time is free. So today, I teach him that time belongs to whoever has power." He looked at Malik. "And you interrupted my lesson. I asked him to let go of an old woman. You told my man what to do." "Same thing." Dima took 2 steps forward. Malik read Dima's stance, then made himself look at the floor. Moving first was the old answer, fast and irreversible, and it carried the name Reed Hollis. In memory, Reed warned, "Not every door needs kicking, Carter. Figure out who's behind it first." "I'm leaving," he said. Victor blocked the path. "No. Now you are part of the lesson." Victor lifted one finger, and the man near the restroom locked the front door. The click sounded louder than it should have. Ruthie backed away. Earl started forward, but Malik stopped him with a look that meant, "Stay near the phone. Keep people low. Do not make this worse." Victor walked around Malik slowly. "What is your name?" "Malik." "Full name?" "Malik Carter." Oleg's eyes came up again. Oleg's eyes flickered at the name before he typed it into his phone. Victor tapped the plastic delivery badge on Malik's chest. "You bring sandwiches, medicine, little things for people who cannot get them themselves. That's the job. And you think because old woman is weak, you become strong." Malik said nothing. Victor smiled at the witnesses. "This is a mistake Americans make. They confuse kindness with power." "No," Malik said. "Some people confuse cruelty with it." The smile disappeared. Dima struck Malik in the stomach. It was a short, ugly blow meant for an audience. Malik folded enough to sell the pain, because the pain was real, but he did not fall. Training rose in him like heat, but he buried it beneath the promise he had made beside Reed's flag-draped coffin. Never again unless there was no other way. Dima hit him across the face. Malik tasted blood. He kept his hands open. Dima's cruelty, Viktor's need for obedience, and Oleg's concern for the schedule made the hierarchy clear. Under enough pressure, it would split. Malik only had to last. Viktor pointed to the floor. "Kneel." Earl said, "Viktor, he's got nothing to do with this." "Now he does. Take the money I have." "I will, and tomorrow you will have the rest." Viktor looked at Malik. "Kneel, delivery boy." Malik stayed standing. The room held its breath. Then Viktor nodded toward Ruthie. Dima reached for her again. Malik lowered himself to one knee. The room murmured. Spectators often mistook pride for courage, but standing would not protect Ruthie. Kneeling might. He placed his other knee on the checkered tile. Viktor's men grinned. Dima took Malik's phone from the pocket of his jacket. The screen showed 3 missed calls from Tasha. Dima held it up. "Who keeps calling?" Malik looked at him. "My sister." "Girlfriend." "Sister." Dima swiped at the locked screen, then held it toward Malik's face. "Open." Malik did not. Dima pressed the edge of the phone against the bruise forming on Malik's cheek. "Open it." Viktor watched with interest. Oleg watched with concern. Not concern for Malik, concern for time. His phone buzzed again. He stepped toward Viktor and spoke quietly. "Truck has already left the club. We need the Bennett signature, then warehouse." "Warehouse." Malik kept his face blank. Viktor answered, 2 minutes. Dima shoved the phone closer. Malik let the face scan fail. "Password." "No." The room changed again. Dima looked to Viktor. Viktor liked the refusal because it gave him a larger stage. "Your sister calls 3 times, he said. "Maybe she worries." Malik said nothing. "Call her back." "No." "Tell her you were delayed." "No." Viktor crouched. "You think silence is strength. Silence is an empty room, and I fill it." He threatened to send men to Malik's address. Malik's pulse slowed as the old machinery woke. He glanced at Earl's beige landline behind the pie case and saw the backroom guard had drifted away. "I'll call," Malik said. Tasha answered immediately, asking where he was and reminding him about the inhaler. "I'm at Bennett's. Got delayed," he said. Then he hid the warning inside ordinary words. Earl's old line, the number their mother made them learn ending in 07, and instructions to call if he missed her. Tasha recognized Deputy Lena Brooks's number and heard what Malik meant. "Okay," she said slowly. "Malik, what happened?" Dima snatched the phone. "Your brother is learning manners." Tasha went quiet. Dima smiled. Pretty voice. Malik rose halfway before Viktor pressed a hand to his shoulder. Every muscle in Malik's body tightened. Dima heard the change in his breathing and enjoyed it. "What's your name, little sister?" "Who is this?" Tasha demanded. "Your brother's new boss." Malik looked at Dima with an emptiness that made Oleg stop typing. "Give it back," Malik said. There was no volume in the words. Dima almost did. Then Viktor laughed softly, and Dima remembered who he was performing for. He dropped the phone on the tile and crushed it beneath his boot. The screen burst into dark cracks. "Now she knows you're busy." Viktor straightened and addressed the diner. "You see, Earl's friend came in believing he could change the rules. Now he kneels. This is kindness. I teach before I punish." He took the sealed envelope from the pickup shelf and tore it open. Inside was not money. It was a notice from a county attorney documenting Earl's complaint about forged liens against the diner property. Viktor read the first page. His face hardened. "You went to county." Earl swallowed. "It's my property. Property is paper. Power is who can make paper disappear. Viktor handed the notice to Oleg. Oleg scanned it, and for the first time his careful expression slipped. This has a case number. Then we remove problem before case grows. Not here, Oleg said. Viktor turned slowly. The younger men looked away. Oleg corrected himself. We have other business. North Line is waiting. There it was again. North Line. Not a joke this time. A destination connected to a truck leaving a club and a warehouse schedule. Malik looked at the white van outside. Its refrigeration unit had been removed, but faint blue lettering remained beneath the paint along the rear panel. N.O.R. 3 ghosted letters. Viktor tore the legal notice in half. Earl will sign a new agreement. No, Earl said, surprising everyone, including himself. Viktor smiled without warmth. Then we need message. His eyes moved to Malik. A man who kneels is good message. He motioned to Dima. Bring him outside. Dima grabbed Malik by the back of the jacket. Malik let himself be hauled up. As he passed the counter, he stumbled deliberately into a stool. His left hand shot out as though seeking balance and knocked a stack of menus onto the floor. Earl bent to pick them up. For less than 2 seconds, Malik's fingers closed around the landline receiver behind the pie case. He pressed redial, then 3 buttons. Lena Brooks had once taught Earl how to set a silent emergency transfer after a string of robberies. Malik had watched her do it. Redial reached the sheriff's non-emergency desk. The 3 buttons triggered no magic code, only tones. But Malik held the receiver close enough for the line to carry voices. Then he let it dangle behind the counter, hidden by the menus. Earl looked at him. Malik whispered one word. Listen. Dima yanked him away. Outside, heat shimmered above the parking lot. Customers watched through the windows. Viktor positioned Malik near the diner sign where every passing driver could see him. The broken diner sign stood above them. Through the windows, customers watched. Malik counted the SUV, the repainted van, and a dark sedan whose driver kept the engine running. 7 men, not 6. The driver kept glancing at the diner, then at a message on his dashboard. He wore a nightclub wristband. Another connection. Malik looked at Oleg, who was again checking his phone. The screen reflected briefly in the SUV window. A map. A blue dot north of the interstate. Oleg closed it before Malik could read more. Viktor stood behind Malik and placed one hand on his shoulder, as if posing for a photograph. Tell Earl, he said loudly, that tomorrow he signs. Tell everyone. Malik stared at the gravel. Tell them. He heard you. Viktor squeezed his shoulder. Say it. Malik looked through the glass at Earl. The old man stood beside the counter, one hand near the hidden receiver. Ruthie had moved the customers away from the windows. Good. Malik said, tomorrow changes things. Viktor interpreted it as surrender. Earl did not. Oleg did not either. He studied Malik as though the words had landed wrong. Dima leaned down. What changes? Malik kept his eyes on the diner. People remember. Dima struck the back of his head. Malik caught himself on one hand. A truck slowed and kept going. Malik studied fresh freight tracks behind the diner and connected them to the repeated North Line name, the moving truck, and Oleg's schedule. He did not yet know why it mattered. He only knew it would. Inside the diner, the hidden receiver carried every word to the sheriff's communications center. The problem was that the first person who noticed the open line was dispatcher Calvin Rusk, a man who had spent 6 months feeding harmless-looking bits of information to one of Viktor's freight companies. Rusk heard Earl's name. He heard Viktor's voice. He heard North Line. Instead of alerting the nearest unit, he muted the line and sent a message from a prepaid phone beneath his console. Open line at Bennett's. Possible deputy contact. Oleg received it while Malik was still on his knees. His face changed so slightly that only Malik noticed. Oleg stepped toward Viktor. "We need to leave." "I said 2 minutes. Now." Viktor looked at the phone Oleg held out. The message did not include Malik's landline trick because Rusk had not seen it, but it was enough to tell Oleg someone might be listening. Oleg walked into the diner, glanced over the counter, and saw the cord hanging behind the pie case. He followed it with his eyes. Earl reached for the receiver too late. Oleg seized it, listened, and disconnected the call. When he came back outside, he was no longer curious about Malik. He was certain. He opened the line. Oleg said. Dima grabbed Malik by the collar. "How?" Malik did not look at the window. He did not want Earl punished for understanding. "Maybe somebody called." Oleg shook his head. "No incoming ring. He did it when he knocked the menus." Viktor stared down at Malik. The public lesson had become private embarrassment, and that was the one thing he could not tolerate. "You kneel," Viktor said, "and still you make tricks. You wanted me quiet. I wanted you afraid." Malik lifted his eyes. "Those aren't the same." Viktor slapped him. The blow was theatrical and sharp. Malik's cheek burned. He stayed on his knees. Dima wanted him to lunge. Oleg wanted him to reveal what he had sent. Viktor wanted the crowd to believe none of this had touched his authority. Malik gave none of them what they wanted. Then Oleg held up Malik's broken phone. He called Sister. The call went 48 seconds. "So," Dima said. He told her to call a deputy. Viktor's gaze narrowed. "Which deputy?" Malik stayed silent. Oleg had already pulled the account details from the delivery badge and matched Malik's address. He showed Viktor a photograph from a public school athletics page. Tasha stood in the middle of a relay team, smiling with one hand raised. Malik saw the image and the world reduced to a single point. Every calculation he had made moved behind one priority: protect Tasha. Nothing else. He rose from his knees. Dima shoved him back down. Malik did not resist, but this time his eyes never left Oleg's phone. "Leave her out of it," he said. Viktor heard what he had been waiting for. Not fear exactly. Attachment. A handle. "There," Viktor said. "Now we meet honest man. She is 17. Then she is old enough to understand consequence." "Viktor," Oleg said quietly, "not necessary." Dima smiled. "Sounds necessary." Oleg looked at him. "You enjoy mess because you never clean it." Dima stepped closer, but Viktor raised a hand. "Enough. We are late." He looked toward the diner windows, then at the road. 2 motorists had slowed. The spectacle had reached its limit. "Put Malik in the SUV." Earl rushed out the front door. "No, you made your point." One of Viktor's men blocked him. Earl tried to push past. The younger criminal shoved him hard enough to send him against the brick wall. Malik moved before he could stop himself. He came off the ground in one smooth motion and caught the man's wrist before a second shove landed. For one suspended second, everyone saw something different. Malik's posture changed. His shoulders settled. His feet found balance. The young criminal's face tightened as his arm became useless in Malik's grip. Dima reached inside his jacket. Oleg said, "Wait." Malik released the wrist and stepped back. The moment vanished, but it had existed. Oleg had seen it. So had Viktor. "Accident?" Viktor asked. Malik looked at Earl, who was breathing hard but standing. "Reflex." Oleg's eyes dropped to Malik's left forearm. His jacket sleeve had pulled up. Near the wrist was a small black tattoo, faded by time, a compass point above a broken wave. It was not an official unit mark. It belonged to a team, a private symbol inked after a rescue off the Horn of Africa. Oleg did not know the full story, but he had seen the mark in an intelligence packet years ago, after a smuggling route connected to one of Viktor's overseas partners had collapsed in a single night. He remembered one photograph. Blurred men boarding a transport aircraft, faces hidden, one forearm visible. Compass. Broken wave. Oleg said nothing. That silence protected Malik for exactly 30 seconds. Then Dima bound Malik's hands with a plastic restraint and shoved him into the back of the black SUV. Viktor sat beside him rather than in front, a choice meant to prove he was not worried. Oleg took the passenger seat. Dima drove. As they pulled away, Malik looked through the rear window. Earl stood in the parking lot holding Ruthie's shoulder. The diner sign leaned above them, one rusted support bent from years of wind. Malik focused on it because the alternative was imagining Tasha alone. He had told her to call Lena. Tasha was smart. She would not leave school. She would stay around adults. She would. Oleg's phone rang. He answered in English. Yes. A voice spoke quickly. No police yet? Oleg asked. He listened. Find the girl. Do not touch her. Bring her to the shop. Malik turned his head. Viktor watched him closely. You should have stayed delivery boy, Viktor said. Malik looked out the window and tracked the road. South on the service road. Left beneath the overpass. 3 minutes beside a rail line. The SUV's right rear tire had a faint rhythmic vibration. One of the temporary plates rattled above 40 miles per hour. He cataloged details because details were rails over panic. Viktor mistook his quiet for defeat. You think where we go? Auto shop, Malik said. Dima looked in the mirror. How you know? You smell like brake cleaner. Dima's smile disappeared. Malik continued. And the sedan driver had grease on both cuffs. Your white van has fresh paint over a company logo. You use shops to change vehicles. Oleg turned around. Why notice this? Malik shrugged as much as the restraint allowed. Delivery driver. Viktor laughed, but Oleg did not. Search him again, Oleg said. Dima glanced back. He's tied. Search him. They pulled into the rear lot of Sokolov European Auto, a large corrugated building wedged between a tire recycler and an abandoned cabinet factory. The public entrance displayed polished sports cars. The rear yard held stripped vans, freight trailers, and vehicles with missing plates. Dima dragged Malik out. A security camera rotated toward them, then away. Malik noted the timing. 11 seconds per sweep. He hated that he noticed. He hated more that part of him felt relieved to have something precise to do. Inside, the air smelled of oil and hot metal. Music played from a radio near the lifts. 3 mechanics kept working without looking up. Whether they were loyal, frightened, or simply paid not to notice was unclear. Dima took Malik to an office overlooking the garage. Viktor poured himself mineral water. Oleg made calls. Malik sat in a metal chair with his hands bound behind him. On the wall hung framed photographs of Viktor beside nightclub owners, freight executives, a city council candidate, and 2 men Malik recognized from nothing except posture. Men who believed photographs were proof of safety. On the desk was a black folder stamped Northline Cold Storage. Viktor noticed Malik reading it and closed the folder. Curious. Hard not to see. You see too much. Occupational problem. Dima hit the back of the chair with a wrench. The clang filled the office. Malik did not flinch. Dima leaned close. You act like nothing reaches you. Malik looked at him. A lot reaches me. Then show it. Why? Dima's face reddened. Viktor smiled. He was enjoying the argument now that the room belonged to him again. Dima believes pain is conversation, Viktor said. Sometimes it is only noise. Oleg ended a call and spoke to Viktor in Russian. Malik caught Tasha's first name. He kept his breathing steady. Viktor asked, "Where?" Oleg answered in English for Malik's benefit. "School gym. Practice changed. Take her quietly. I told them no force." Dima laughed. "Children scream." Malik turned toward Oleg. "Call them off. You are not in position. Neither are you." Oleg's jaw tightened. Malik nodded at his phone. "Someone above you wants that freight moved. Viktor wants Earl's property. Dima wants an excuse. Now you're adding a kidnapped kid while law enforcement may already have an open line. You're the only one in the room counting consequences." Viktor's expression hardened. Oleg stared at Malik. Dima said, "He talks too much." "He is guessing," Viktor said. "Am I?" Malik asked. Viktor stepped in front of him. "You think you understand my people because you watch for 10 minutes? No, I understand pressure. You know nothing about pressure." For the first time, an image broke through Malik's control. A windowless room overseas. A hostage crying behind a steel door. Reed crouched beside him, blood on his sleeve, saying they had one chance and no clean choices. Malik blinked the memory away. "Maybe," he said. Oleg's phone vibrated. He read a message and went still. "They have her." The office became silent. Malik did not move. Inside him, something tore loose. Not rage. Rage was easy. This was colder. The promise he had made after Reed's death had never been a promise to remain harmless. It had been a promise to stop turning violence into the first answer. Tasha was now a hostage. The question had changed. Viktor crouched in front of Malik. "Your sister is safe if you cooperate. Let me hear her. You do not make demands. Then you don't have her." Viktor looked at Oleg. Oleg made the call, put it on speaker, and waited. A man's voice answered, "We are moving." In the background, Tasha said, "Malik, don't tell them anything." A scuffle. Someone told her to be quiet. Malik leaned forward. "Tasha." "I'm okay," she said quickly. "They took my backpack, but I still have—" The call muffled. Malik heard a metallic echo, then a 3-note chime. The sound was faint but familiar. Railroad crossing warning from the industrial spur near her school. A freight train horn followed from the left side of the caller's microphone. They were moving east, not toward the auto shop yet. Tasha raised her voice. "The van is cold. It smells like oranges." Someone grabbed the phone. Enough. The call ended. Dima grinned. "Brave girl." Malik looked at him until the grin weakened. Oranges. Refrigerated freight vans often carried produce. Cold interior. Metallic echo. Eastbound rail crossing. Tasha had given him clues on purpose. She had listened when he taught her to notice landmarks during long drives, a game from childhood that she thought was about boredom. He had never told her where the habit came from. Viktor held out a document. "Earl signs diner to my company. You tell him. You say police are misunderstanding. You say nothing happened. Then your sister goes home." Malik looked at the document. "You don't need me for that. Earl trusts you. Not after he sees me help you." Exactly. Viktor wanted more than property. He wanted to poison the witness, turn Malik into proof that resistance was foolish. "And if Earl refuses?" Malik asked. Viktor smiled. "North Line has much empty space." Oleg looked sharply at him. Dima laughed. The name was no longer a loose clue. It was a threat. Malik lowered his eyes and made his shoulders sag. He let the silence stretch until Viktor saw what he wanted, a brother breaking. "I'll talk to Earl," Malik said. Dima exhaled in satisfaction. Viktor patted Malik's cheek. "Good. You learn." But Oleg kept watching. He had seen Malik catch the man's wrist outside the diner. He had seen the faded compass tattoo. And now, after hearing his sister had been taken, Malik's breathing had become slower, not faster. Oleg opened a search window on his phone and typed Malik Carter Navy. The public results showed a community college enrollment, a delivery business registration, and an old charity race. Nothing else. He tried the tattoo description with the words broken wave. An archived foreign language forum appeared, discussing a failed smuggling transfer years earlier. There were rumors of an American maritime team. No names. One comment mentioned a call sign. Harbor 7. Oleg looked at Malik again. Viktor said, "What?" "Nothing." Oleg locked the screen, but the question had entered the room, and it would not leave. Across town, Tasha sat on the floor of a moving panel van with her wrists loosely taped in front of her. Two men faced her. One was young and frightened, the same kind of frightened Malik could spot in a crowded room. The other wore a black cap and kept receiving instructions through an earpiece. Tasha's phone had been thrown into a storm drain outside the school. Her backpack sat near the rear door. She had managed to pull a metal inhaler canister halfway from its pocket before they noticed. Now it was hidden beneath her thigh. She was scared enough that her teeth wanted to chatter, but she kept thinking of Malik's rules for emergencies. Breathe before speaking. Notice what changes. Give information without sounding like information. Never let fear convince you that you have no choices. Malik had taught her those things after their mother died, presenting them as ordinary life lessons. She had always suspected they came from somewhere darker. The van slowed. Through a seam in the rear door, she saw blue letters on a passing trailer. North Line. She pressed the edge of the inhaler canister against the tape around her wrists and waited. Deputy Lena Brooks was finishing a report in the county courthouse annex when her personal phone rang from an unknown school extension. She almost let it go to voicemail. Then she answered and heard Tasha Carter say, "Malik told me to call the number ending in 07. Lena stood so quickly her chair rolled into the wall. "Where is he?" "Bennett's Diner. Something's wrong." A man answered his phone. Lena moved toward the door. "Stay at school. Stay with your coach. I'm sending a unit." "I am with Coach Daniels." Tasha lowered her voice. Malik sounded like before. Lena stopped. "Before what?" "Before he wakes up from the bad dreams." Lena knew exactly what that meant. Before becoming a deputy, Lena had been a Navy intelligence liaison. She knew Harbor 7 as a quiet rescue specialist who could read spaces under pressure. Then Reed Hollis died on a failed hostage mission, and Malik disappeared from that world. Lena had respected his wish to remain gone. Now Tasha's call ended as men arrived at the school. Lena bypassed dispatch after noticing Rusk's suspicious pause and drove toward Bennett's. Malik had asked for help before acting. Either the situation was still containable, or the person he loved most was already in danger. Lena reached Bennett's 11 minutes after Viktor left. The black SUV was gone. So was the white van. Earl was sweeping broken glass from beside the register with hands that would not stop shaking. Ruthie sat in a booth holding ice against her wrist. Witness memories conflicted, but a trucker had 9 seconds of video showing Malik kneeling while his eyes tracked windows, vehicles, doors, hands, and reflections. Lena knew the pattern. He was counting. "He was counting," she said. Earl stopped sweeping. "Counting what?" "Everything." She looked toward the counter. "Show me the phone." Earl led her behind the pie case and lifted the receiver. He knocked down the menus. "Put this on redial. Told me to listen." Lena checked the call history. The line had connected to dispatch for 2 minutes and 14 seconds. No incident had been logged. Who answered? Nobody spoke. Lena called Sergeant Hill. "Pull the console record for every open line event from Bennett's in the last hour. Do it quietly." Hill asked why. Because somebody buried one. She ended the call and turned to Earl. What did they want? Earl looked toward the torn legal notice on the floor. The diner. Not just money. Victor's been buying debt around here through shell companies. He says I owe for protection after his own people broke my freezer and 2 windows. Then a freight broker offered to buy the property for half what it's worth. I found out the broker leases land to Northline Cold Storage. Lena's attention sharpened. Northline? They kept saying it, like a joke. Ruthie spoke from the booth. One of them said put Earl in the freezer. Lena walked to the front window. Bennett sat at the intersection of 2 service roads used by warehouse traffic. Behind the diner, the old industrial spur ran north toward a cluster of cold storage facilities. Did Malik react to the name? Earl thought. He looked at the white van. What kind of van? Refrigerated once, maybe. Unit was gone. A customer said the letters NOR were visible beneath new paint. Lena had Hill search Northline properties. When Victor called, Malik fed Earl disguised clues. Orange, Northline, mile 18, an old freezer, Tasha alive, civilians together, and a warning to give Deputy Brooks the video. After the call, Lena mapped the words to Northline Building 4, a partially closed refrigerated warehouse near mile 18. He is building us a picture, Lena said. Earl stared at the video. Malik was surviving the moment, protecting civilians, and feeding what he could while Reed's ghost stood beside every decision. At the auto shop, Dima took the phone from Malik and drove his fist into the metal cabinet beside the chair. You said Brooks. I said if she arrives. You told Earl to give her video. Because somebody recorded Victor. Victor's anger did not show as shouting. It showed as stillness. You believe Deputy saves you? Malik looked at him. I believe witnesses matter. Witnesses forget. Not all of them. They do when fear becomes expensive. Oleg's overseas contact answered with a warning and a grainy photograph. 5 American operators beside 3 rescued hostages, one carrying wounded teammate Reed Hollis. The visible forearm bore the compass and broken wave. The caption named Carter, Harbor 7, and the team that had broken a Red Sea smuggling route. Oleg looked from the image to the quiet delivery driver. The mark is the same. The name is the same. His call sign was Harbor 7. Dima laughed until Oleg said, Seal. The word changed the room. One mechanic below stopped working. Another turned up the radio. Dima stared at Malik, then laughed again because he did not know what else to do. Navy SEAL delivering pills. Former, Malik said. Why former? Victor asked. Malik looked at the photograph on Oleg's phone. Because I left. Men like that do not leave. They do. Why? Malik did not answer. Victor leaned against the desk. His first reaction had been denial. His second was curiosity. His third, more dangerous than either, was pride. He did not want to retreat after learning who Malik was. He wanted to prove the information did not matter. This is better, Victor said. At diner, everyone thinks weak boy kneels. Now I know trained man kneels. Oleg shook his head. He chose not to fight in a room full of civilians. He was afraid. He opened a police line while Dima held him. Trick. He gave location clues during our call. Victor turned. What clues? Oleg replayed Malik's words from memory. Orange cooler, Northline, mile 18, old freezer. His face tightened. He knows direction. Dima seized Malik's jacket. How much? Malik met his eyes. Enough. Dima raised a hand. Oleg caught his wrist. Stop. Dima stared at him. You protect him now? I protect the operation from your stupidity. Let go. Not until you remember Viktor gave orders. The two men stood nearly chest to chest. Malik watched hierarchy become friction. He had predicted it in the diner. Pressure had reached the seam. Viktor stepped between them. We move. Oleg released Dima. Where? Warehouse. Which one? 4. Malik lowered his eyes before anyone could read the answer in them. Building 4. Confirmation. Oleg saw it anyway. He heard. Viktor smiled. Let him. He comes with us. Why? Because I want his sister to see him obey. Oleg said, that is theater, not business. Fear is business. The shipment is already late. We should release the girl away from the site and move the containers. No, we finish Earl. Earl is a diner owner. Earl is an example. Oleg looked at Malik. And he is what? Viktor answered without hesitation. A better example. Malik understood then that Viktor's weakness was not rage. It was audience. He needed domination witnessed. That need would keep Tasha alive longer because Viktor wanted her to watch Malik break. It would also make Viktor predictable. Malik let his shoulders fold again. I'll do what you want, he said. Viktor smiled. Oleg did not. You change quickly, Oleg said. Malik looked toward the floor. You have my sister. Dima nodded as though the answer proved everything. Oleg kept watching. Fear was present. Malik was not pretending that. But beneath it lay structure. He was already measuring time. They moved through the freight district and stopped briefly at Viktor's nightclub. Malik tracked rail crossings, mile markers, and a red water tower, confirming Building 4. Inside the club, he saw North Line labels, illegal goods blended into legitimate freight, cameras, armed guards, and civilians who looked away. Viktor forced him to record a statement, but Malik preserved names and facts inside every denial until Oleg stopped the recording and secretly saved it. A call reported that Tasha was at Building 4. 14 workers had arrived early, and police response was changing because Lena had bypassed Rusk. Oleg again argued to release Tasha and move the shipment. Viktor refused. On the way out, Malik heard that Building 4's north gate was chained because of a failed freezer alarm, one less unknown, a future choice. At the freight corridor, Hill confirmed Rusk had buried Bennett's call and searched Malik's name after Lena told him not to. Rusk was quietly removed from the console, but Viktor had already been warned. Lena staged deputies, state investigators, and rescue personnel west of the industrial park. Building 4 matched every clue, yet 14 workers were inside, and an active trailer was unloading. A blind rush could scatter armed men among civilians or send Tasha away in a freight vehicle. They needed her exact location. Malik will hold it together until he thinks we cannot reach her, Lena said. Then he will move. Can he? Yes. Should we be worried about that? Lena looked at the map again. We should be worried about what it costs him. At Northline Building 4, Tasha had already freed one hand. The inhaler canister had left a red mark across her palm, but the tape had loosened enough for her to pull through. She kept both wrists together so the guards would not notice. The room where they held her had once been a supervisor's break area. A dirty window overlooked the west loading floor. Below, workers in insulated jackets moved pallets while armed men tried to look like security. Tasha counted people because Malik always counted people. 12 workers. 4 armed men she could see. 2 office doors. A yellow line leading to an emergency exit. Above the door beside her, a temperature display flickered between numbers. Cold air pushed through a vent, even though the room itself was warm. From the break room window, Tasha counted workers, armed men, exits, and the cold vent line. Guards mentioned that Brooks knew and Rusk was leaking information. That meant Malik had reached Lena. She was not alone. A few minutes later, the black SUV rolled through the west gate. Malik stepped out with his hands bound. His cheek was swollen. There was dried blood at the corner of his mouth. Tasha's fear surged so quickly she almost stood. Then Malik looked up at the break room window. He saw her. He gave no sign except one slow blink. Tasha remembered another rule. One blink means I see you. Do not change what you are doing. She sat back. Below, Malik scanned workers, armed men, cameras, the old freezer corridor, a failing alarm panel, and the maintenance passage beneath Tasha's room. Nobody watched the passage. Early clue. Unlocked backroom doors. Men like Viktor kept making the same mistake because they watch people, not spaces. Viktor ordered Tasha brought down. The younger guard opened the break room door and pulled her into the hall. She stumbled on purpose near the stair landing and dropped the inhaler canister through the railing. It bounced once and rolled beneath a pallet near Malik. The guard cursed and dragged her upright. Malik saw where the canister stopped. Tasha looked at him. Another clue. Another choice. He lowered his head. Dima laughed. Look at Hero now. Oleg said, stop calling him that. Why? Afraid he hears. Afraid you keep forgetting what he is capable of. Viktor raised his voice so workers across the floor could hear. Everyone stopped. Forklifts went quiet. Pallet wheels stopped. The civilians looked toward the center. Some knew Viktor. Others only knew the armed men obeyed him. Viktor brought Tasha beside Malik. Your brother caused trouble, he told her. He lied. He involved police. He made simple debt dangerous. Tasha stared at him. You kidnapped a teenager over diner paperwork. A few workers looked down to hide their reactions. Viktor's smile tightened. You are brave because he is here. No, she said. I'm brave because he's my brother. Malik almost smiled. Dima grabbed the back of her hoodie. Malik's head came up. Don't. Dima pulled harder. Or what? Viktor watched closely. He wanted the old operator. He wanted Malik to explode so the story could become simple. Dangerous man attacked. Viktor defended himself. Malik saw the cameras above the loading floor. Two had live red indicators. He saw a worker holding a phone low beside a pallet. Witnesses. Evidence. He kept his hand still. You already have me, Malik said. Let her sit. Viktor considered, then nodded. Tasha sat on the floor beside Malik. Their shoulders touched. The contact steadied them both. You okay? Malik asked. You look worse. Answer. I'm scared. Me too. Viktor laughed. Navy SEAL is scared. Malik looked at Tasha. Fear tells you what matters. Doesn't get to choose what you do. Tasha breathed out. Dima rolled his eyes. Speech finished? Malik continued softly. When the lights blink, count slow. Stay low until you hear Lena. Tasha did not ask what he meant. Viktor heard only the first part. Lights blink. Malik looked toward the flickering service panel. Old building. Oleg followed his glance. Suspicion moved across his face. He ordered a guard to check the alarm panel. That pulled one man from the west doors. Malik had not planned it. He had only wanted Tasha ready for confusion. But pressure created opportunities when people overreacted. Viktor held up Earl's agreement. Now call Diner. Tell him sign. You took my phone. Viktor gave Oleg's phone to Malik and selected Earl's number. Oleg hesitated. The phone contained messages, shipping records, the old photograph, and the video from the club. Viktor did not care. He wanted the performance. Malik held the device in both bound hands. Before the call connected, Malik glimpsed Rusk's warning that Brooks was staging west. He understood Viktor would move Tasha east toward the active refrigerated trailer. Earl answered. Viktor put the call on speaker. "Tell him," he said. Malik looked at Tasha. "Earl, it's Malik. We're here." The plural told him Lena was listening. "I need you to sign nothing." Viktor hit him across the back with the folded document. Malik bent forward. "Wrong answer," Viktor said. Malik straightened. "Earl, listen. They have Tasha at North Line 4. East Line is active. Workers are inside. Old freezer alarm is failing. West Gate is watched." Oleg grabbed for the phone. Malik turned his body and kept speaking. "Lena, Rusk is the leak." Dima struck him, and the phone fell. Tasha kicked it beneath a pallet. Earl's voice remained audible. "Malik." A guard lunged for the phone. One of the workers stepped into his path as though by accident. Another worker shut down a forklift, blocking the direct lane. Tiny choices. Civilians were afraid, but fear did not make them useless. Viktor shouted for everyone to move back. The order created noise. Oleg retrieved his phone and ended the call. "They know exact site now." "Because you handed him your phone," Dima said. Oleg stared at Viktor. Viktor's face darkened. "Move shipment." "And the girl?" Oleg asked. Viktor looked toward the east dock. Malik saw the decision form before he spoke. Trailer. Tasha's hand found Malik's. Her fingers were cold. "No," Oleg said. Viktor turned. "What?" "No. We release her. We have enough exposure." Dima laughed. "You sound like police." "I sound like man who understands kidnapping a child is not debt collection. Too late for conscience. This is not conscience. This is survival." Viktor stepped close. "You survived because I decide." Oleg held his ground. "Not if your decisions destroy everyone." Silence spread across the loading floor. The workers pretended not to listen. Malik looked at Dima. "He'll leave you," he said. Dima frowned. "Quiet." Malik nodded toward Oleg's phone. "Ask what Viktor told the man above him. Ask whose name is on the warehouse lease. Ask who gets blamed for the girl." Viktor kicked Malik in the ribs. Malik fell against Tasha. Pain closed his lungs for a second. Tasha shouted at Viktor. Dima pulled her away. Malik forced himself upright. "He needs you angry," Malik told Dima. "Angry men sign their own confession." "Shut up." Oleg saved the video at the club. "Why?" "Because he knows this ends badly." Dima looked at Oleg. Oleg said nothing. That silence was enough. Viktor drew a pistol and pointed it at Malik. The workers recoiled. "You think words turn my men?" Viktor asked. Malik looked at the weapon, then at Viktor. "No. Your fear does." Viktor's face changed. Malik saw the exact moment control slipped. Not because anyone had beaten him. Because the audience had stopped believing. The workers saw a boss pointing a gun at a bound man and a teenage girl. Dima saw Oleg protecting evidence. Oleg saw Viktor sacrificing the operation for pride. Tasha saw her brother bruised, kneeling, and somehow still deciding the pace of the room. Then a siren chirped once from the old freezer system. Every light in the warehouse blinked. Tasha began counting. The blink had nothing to do with Malik. A maintenance guard at the alarm panel had opened the wrong service cabinet and triggered a fault. But confusion did not care who caused it. The loading floor fell dark for 2 seconds, returned under red emergency lamps, then darkened again. Workers shouted. A forklift alarm began beeping. Someone dropped a pallet. Malik moved toward the inhaler canister beneath the pallet, not fast enough to draw the eye, only enough to close his fingers around it. Dima hauled Tasha toward the east dock. Viktor ordered the guards to seal the west doors. Oleg shouted that police were already there, though he did not know that. The claim sent two men running toward the west office windows. Malik worked the small metal edge against the restraint at his wrists. Malik used the inhaler canister against his restraint, but when Dima dragged Tasha toward the trailer, he stopped and followed. Rescue first. Always. A guard stepped into his path. Malik lowered his head as if surrendering, then shifted past him with one controlled movement and sent the man stumbling into a stack of empty cartons. No wild attack. No chase for damage. Space opened. Malik moved through it. Dima saw him coming and shoved Tasha toward the trailer. Get inside. She planted both feet. No. He raised a hand. Malik said his name. Dima. Dima turned. That was the point. Tasha pulled free and ran behind a loading post. Dima charged Malik. The fight lasted seconds and felt longer because everyone watched. Dima swung with anger. Malik moved with purpose. He gave ground away from Tasha, turned Dima's momentum, and put him on the concrete without striking after he fell. Dima rose, embarrassed and furious, and came again. This time he pulled a knife. Malik's restraint finally split. He caught Dima's arm, redirected the blade away from the workers, and forced him against the side of the trailer. The knife clattered beneath the dock. Malik stepped back. Stay down. Dima could not understand the mercy. He mistook it for weakness one last time and lunged. Oleg shouted, Dima, stop! Dima ignored him. Malik ended the attack with one hard, precise movement that dropped Dima beside the trailer. Dima remained conscious, stunned more by helplessness than pain. Malik did not look at him again. Tasha had disappeared behind the post. Tasha? Here. She emerged, but a second guard seized her from behind. Malik stopped. The guard held a gun near her shoulder. His hand shook. Young. Frightened. The same man from the diner who had watched Viktor instead of the exits. Malik lowered his hands. You don't want this. Back up. Okay. He stepped back. You have a name. Don't. You have people who expect you home. The guard's breathing quickened. Viktor shouted from across the floor, Take her into trailer. Malik kept his eyes on the young man. Viktor is leaving. Look around. The guard glanced toward Viktor. Viktor was moving toward the north office with Oleg's phone in one hand and the pistol in the other. Two loyal men followed him. He was not coming to help. He will say you acted alone, Malik continued. Put the gun down. Walk to the workers. Keep your hands visible. Shut up. You still get to choose. Tasha stood very still. He's right, she said. The young man's grip loosened. Dima from the floor cursed him. Oleg said, Let the girl go. The guard looked at Oleg. Boss said, I said let her go. Hierarchy split. The guard pushed Tasha away and set the gun on the concrete. She ran to Malik. He caught her with both arms. For the first time, Malik's control cracked as he held Tasha. You okay? I am now. Not yet. A burst of gunfire sounded from the west side, high into the ceiling. A guard had panicked at the sight of deputies outside. Workers screamed and scattered. Malik pulled Tasha behind the loading platform. The gunfire and alarms pulled Malik into the failed rescue until Tasha gripped his sleeve and said, Stay with me. He breathed. I am. He led her through the maintenance passage beneath the platform, away from the open floor. 2 workers followed, then 4 more. Malik directed them toward the south emergency exit, the one not visible from the offices. He led workers through the maintenance passage, using names and keeping them together, but the south exit had been illegally chained. The route failed. Behind them, cold air roared as the east trailer's refrigeration unit started. Viktor's voice came over the warehouse intercom. Malik Carter, bring girl to north office, or doors close and workers stay with us. Oleg's voice cut in, distant. Viktor, stop. A blow. The intercom crackled. Then Viktor said, "You have 1 minute." Malik looked at the chain door. He could spend time forcing it or move the civilians deeper into cover. A worker named Jose pointed to a stairwell leading to a roof access corridor. "Office side has another exit," he said. "Past old freezer." Malik looked at Tasha. "Can you take them?" Her face tightened. "You're going to Viktor. I'm going to open the building." "That's not what I asked." Malik had spent years hiding his past because he wanted to protect her from the truth. Now the truth stood between them. "I have to make sure he can't move anyone else." "And if you don't come back?" The question carried Reed's memory, but Malik told Tasha to lead the workers to Lena while he kept Viktor from moving anyone else. She nodded, brave and afraid, and he turned north. Outside, Lena heard the gunfire and nearly ordered an immediate breach. Then a figure appeared at an upper window on the south side, waving a bright school hoodie. Tasha. Behind her were workers. Lena raised binoculars. Tasha pointed north, then held up both hands, spread all fingers, and then 4. 14 civilians. She pointed west and crossed her arms. Unsafe. Then she pointed toward the roof corridor. Lena understood enough. "Rescue team to south roof access," she ordered. "Entry units hold west pressure. Do not push the loading floor unless civilians clear." The state investigator said, "We have a visual on the hostage. She is moving workers. Where is Malik?" Lena watched Tasha point north again. "Going the other way." She switched to a secure channel. "All units, Viktor likely north offices. Refrigerated trailer active east dock. Watch every vehicle. Nobody fires unless there is an immediate threat." A deputy reported a man leaving the west office with hands raised. Then another. The young guard who released Tasha had started a surrender. Oleg's authority was pulling men away from Viktor's. The organization was collapsing from inside. But Viktor still had the north office, 2 loyal guards, and Oleg. Malik entered the old freezer corridor through a service door. It was dim and cold. Malik heard Viktor and Oleg arguing about destroying the phone and escaping in the east trailer. Wearing a drop north line jacket and carrying a clipboard bought Malik the 1 second he needed to pass the door guard. The guard recognized him too late. Malik moved the weapon away and put him down. A second guard fired through the office glass until Oleg knocked the weapon aside. "Enough!" he yelled. Malik entered. Viktor stood behind a desk, pistol aimed at the doorway. Oleg stood to one side, bleeding from his lip, phone clenched in his hand. The remaining guard backed toward the wall. "Where is my sister?" Malik asked. Viktor smiled. "You lost her?" "No." Malik saw surprise in Oleg's face. "She is with workers." "Then why come here?" Viktor asked. "To keep you from reaching the trailer." Viktor laughed. "You could take girl and run, but you come for me." Malik shook his head. "Not for you, for everyone you keep using." Viktor pointed the pistol at his chest. "Kneel." The word returned them to the diner. Same demand, different room. At the diner, Malik had knelt to protect Ruthie and Earl. Here, civilians were moving away. Tasha was with Lena's rescue route. Witnesses were recording. Help was outside. The equation had changed. Malik stayed standing. Viktor's hand shook once. "Kneel." "No." Oleg looked at Viktor. Dima was down. Guards were surrendering. Sirens surrounded the building. The power of the command was gone. Viktor stepped around the desk and pressed the pistol closer. "You think because you were Navy, you win. This isn't war. Everything is war. That's why you lost." Viktor's face twisted. "I made you kneel in dirt, tile and gravel. I broke you in front of everyone." Malik looked at him steadily. "You never knew what you were looking at." The sentence landed harder than a threat. Viktor had mistaken restraint for surrender, responsibility for poverty, silence for emptiness, and a choice not to hurt people for an inability to act. Oleg slowly placed his phone on the desk. "It is over, Viktor. Pick it up." "No. You work for me." "Not anymore." Viktor swung the pistol toward Oleg. Malik moved. He did not attack from anger. He did not see Reed. He saw the direction of the weapon, the civilians beyond the walls, and the choice that prevented one more death. The gun struck the floor and slid beneath the desk. Viktor crashed against the cabinet. Oleg stepped back with both hands raised. The remaining guard dropped his weapon. Malik pinned Viktor long enough to stop the struggle, then released pressure when the man went still. Viktor looked up at him, shocked. "Do it," he said. "What?" "You came for revenge." Malik thought of the diner floor. Dima's boot on his phone. Tasha in the van. Reed on the dock. All the anger was there, but restraint was weight held on purpose. "No," Malik said. "I came to bring my sister home." He stepped away and kicked the pistol beyond reach. Viktor lunged for it anyway. Oleg put his foot on the weapon. For a moment, the two men stared at each other. Then Oleg moved back and raised his hands again as deputies entered the corridor. Lena came through the broken office door with Sergeant Hill behind her. "Malik." He turned. "Tasha." "Safe. South side. She got 11 workers to the roof corridor. Rescue team has the rest." The strength went out of his posture so suddenly Lena crossed the room and caught his arm. He had held everything until that answer. "You're hurt," she said. "Not bad." "You always say that." Deputies handcuffed Viktor. He shouted that he owned the warehouse, that the workers were thieves, that Oleg had betrayed him, that Malik had attacked him. Body cameras captured Viktor's collapsing excuses. Oleg handed over the phone containing shipping records, payments, the club video, and messages from Rusk. The active trailer held stolen medicine, counterfeit parts, and forged documents. Warehouse cameras, workers, and surrendering guards completed a case too large to intimidate away. Tasha met Malik near the south loading ramp. She ran the last few steps and wrapped both arms around him. He winced. "Ribs?" she asked. "Maybe. That's not an answer." "Then yes." She pulled back and looked at his face. "You were a Navy SEAL." Tasha asked why he had hidden being a SEAL. Malik told her about Reed Hollis, the 3 hostages they saved, and the teammate who did not come home. He had spent years believing one more observation or a different choice might have changed it. When she asked if it was his fault, he finally answered, "I don't know. I left because every room started looking like that mission. Every stranger looked like somebody I might fail. Then Mom got sick. You needed me here. I promised I would never become the man who only knew how to solve things with force." Tasha glanced toward Viktor being placed in a patrol vehicle. "You didn't. I hurt people tonight. You stopped people. Sometimes the line is thin. You still saw it." Malik did not answer. Tasha touched the faded tattoo on his wrist. "Is this for Reed?" "For the team. The broken wave meant you don't control the sea. The compass meant you control your direction. That's dramatic. Reed picked it. Then I like him." Malik laughed once, quietly, and the sound surprised both of them. Lena walked over holding a blanket. "You two can finish the family history after a hospital checks him." Malik said, "Tasha first." "Already checked." Tasha opened the blanket to show a bandage on her palm. "I cut it, freeing my hand." Malik's eyes narrowed. "With what?" "Inhaler canister. That was dangerous. It worked. Still dangerous. Former Navy SEAL lectures kidnapped teenager about risk. Great." Lena shook her head. "She is definitely your sister." For a moment, amid sirens and cold freight air. They were simply three tired people standing together. The arrest did not end at sunrise. Calvin Rusk was taken into custody before his shift ended. Investigators recovered messages tying him to payments routed through a towing company controlled by Viktor. Earl's forged liens were traced to a broker connected to Northline. The club video Oleg saved became evidence of coercion. The trucker's 9-second recording from the diner established the public humiliation and Viktor's threat. Ruthie identified Dima. The bartender identified Malik's forced statement. Warehouse workers described Viktor ordering Tasha into the refrigerated trailer. Oleg negotiated through an attorney and provided records that exposed shell companies, bribery, cargo theft, extortion, and the use of Earl's property dispute to gain access near the rail spur. The case expanded across counties, but the heart of it remained simple. Viktor had believed fear erased witnesses. Instead, every person he treated as weak had preserved a piece of the truth. Earl kept the diner. The windows had to be replaced. The front door needed a new lock. The parking lot camera, which Viktor's men had disabled, came back with 2 extra angles paid for by a community fundraiser. Ruthie returned to work in a wrist brace and refused 3 separate offers to take paid leave. "I can pour coffee one-handed," she said, "and I want to see who tips better now." The diner stayed busy for weeks. People came to support the diner and to stare at the floor where Malik had knelt. A clip spread beside footage of Viktor in handcuffs, often under the blunt title Russian Mafia boss, humiliated a black young man, not knowing he was a Navy SEAL. Malik refused every interview request. He did not want to become a symbol, a warning, or a myth. He wanted to get Tasha to school, rebuild his delivery schedule, and sleep one full night without hearing the warehouse alarm. Quiet returned slowly. Tasha had dreams about the cold van. Malik began counseling after she told him carrying pain alone was not protection. At Reed's grave, he said, "I chose the people still inside." Then he cried without hiding. 3 months later, Bennett's new sign arrived. Earl had ordered bright red letters, but the installer discovered the old support frame was bent. Malik showed up on a Saturday with tools in the back of his gray van. The blue door still did not match. His delivery badge was new. Tasha came with him carrying 2 lemonades and giving instructions nobody had requested. "Left side is crooked," she called from the parking lot. "I'm not done." "It was crooked before you started." Helpful. Earl stood beneath the awning pretending to supervise. Ruthie served coffee to a pair of deputies inside. Lena sat in the corner booth completing paperwork and smiling whenever Malik glanced through the window. The town looked at him differently now. Some saw a hero. Some saw danger. Some saw the bruised young man on his knees and felt ashamed they had done nothing. Malik could not control any of that. He could only choose his direction. He tightened the last bolt, climbed down, and stood beside Tasha as the sign came on. Bennett's family diner glowed clean and whole against the evening sky. The new bee shone brightest. Tasha handed him a lemonade. "Think it'll last?" Malik looked at the repaired frame, then at the diner full of people who had chosen to testify, help, remember, and stay. "Yeah," he said. "I think it will." They chose him because he looked harmless. By sunrise, Viktor Sokolov understood why dangerous men once feared Malik Carter's name.